Hey everyone. Well, last time we went to. Hey everyone, welcome back to Deep Dive. Last time we went to Scranton, Pennsylvania and talked about The Office. Had a great talk with Dustin. This time we're going into the Enchanted Forest. And I can't do this alone. With me I've got my good friend, one of my co-hosts that I do the countdown with. The one, the only 50, say, once upon a 50. Hey man, how you doing?
I'm fine. I'm fine. Thank you for having me.
Anytime, my man, you're always welcome here. So, what we're talking about is Once Upon a Time, the show. Let me ask you, before we get really deep into it, how did you first find the show and what got you into it, first of all?
Well, just like anything else involving me, it's not a simple, straightforward answer. So, in late 2014, I think it was, I was scouring the interwebs for any news on the MCU and other superhero related movie stuff. Completely unrelated to the topic, but I promise you we'll get there. So I was a big follower of IGN and Clever Movies. I think that was the name of the channel. I was following Collider, obviously, or rather AMC, as it was known back in the AMC Movie Talk. So one and Watch Mojo, all these stuff, and one of these days I just found a video on IGN that just had in the thumbnail, it just had live action versions of Anna and Elsa in it, and they were discussing specifically that season 4 of Once Upon a Time. They were just talking about what they felt about the first episode. Sorry, my computer is making noises. They were talking about the first episode of season 4 that featured all the Frozen characters, and I was like, and obviously Frozen had just come out a year before, and I only just got a chance to watch it then. So I was like, well, what the hell is this? So I clicked on it, and it just morphed into this conversation of they were talking about this show that apparently has been going on for a while, and with all these characters that I didn't know the names of. They were talking about Rumpelstiltskin, and they were talking Beauty and the Beast stuff. They were just talking about all these Disney princess stuff, which I love. And I was like, holy shit, I gotta start watching the show. And then a couple of weeks later, I was still in the military, and I was still midway through my second rewatch of all of Doctor Who from 63 all the way to 2014. That was the most recent thing at the time. So I said to myself, as soon as I'm done with Doctor Who, that's next on the agenda. Took me a few months, but I got there in the end. So during that time, I saw like a teaser trailer for something from season 4 again. It was a clip of just Cruella, Ursula, and Maleficent having the meeting with Rumpelstiltskin and Maleficent's castle. I was like, "Holy shit! I can't wait to watch this. I gotta go back to finishing my Doctor Who rewatch so I can move on to that." And I remember it was weeks, if not months, of just when can I start this? When can I start watching it? And then when I finally started watching it, mid 2015, I think,
Okay.
had a bit of a rough start, I will admit. I was not a big fan of the pilot episode, mainly because it throws all these stuff at you at the same time, and I was not on board with the main characters at first. But from second episode, that I can even pinpoint the exact moment I really got on board with Emma Swan. It was when she chopped down the tree in Regina's garden. That
Yeah.
was when oh yeah, I'm into this, and it's my second favorite show ever since. Second
Well,
only to Doctor Who, obviously.
really? I didn't know you liked it that much.
Yep.
Well, I started watching it in the first season. I met the first 5 episodes, and then people kept telling me you should watch it, it's really good. So one morning I decided to binge the first 5 episodes. And I fell in love with it right away. I don't know about you, but my favorite character, well, I have two. One is Rumpelstiltskin. I just think I just, oh, he's just like a genius. He's so manipulative. He's so interesting to watch. I love that he plays like the rom-com. You get his son back. And I gotta say, I love Hook. Hook is a great character that came in the second season. And I just fell, yeah, I fell in love with the show. And I really should do a rewatch one of these times, one of these days. Saying that I know one of the things you and me, we don't disagree about, but we have different opinions. You like season 4 and 5, I believe, right? The Frozen Farm and Camelot, you like that stuff?
See, I love the Camelot slash um, Underworld season. That's season 5, and I like the Frozen stuff in season 4. I do not like anything that came out after season 4 with Cruella. Ironically, the trailer that I watched, but the Queens of Darkness, I think that's the name of the storyline, with Cruella, Maleficent, and Ursula. That was like it was a drag to get through, and I believe by the time that was at the time when I started watching the show. So not only was it a drag to get through that second half of the season, I had to wait a very long time, like all of us, for season 5, where, in my opinion, things really picked back up.
Yeah, season, I didn't like the Frozen stuff. I mean, it was okay, but I felt like it went kind of a lot of stuff in Emma's past that I didn't really dig with. Does that make sense?
I see where you're coming from, and hell, I'm a Doctor Who fan, and we all know what happened recently with that show. Some people say it retconned a lot of stuff. I would argue, both in terms of Doctor Who and with Once Upon a Time, I would say this: is it really a retcon if it's just stuff we did not know about previously? Because, see, I have a different approach to the word retcon, and maybe because it's used so willy nilly in Torchwood that it actually became like a thing in Torchwood. They literally have these pills called retcon pills that make you forget stuff. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not kidding. You drink a pill and then you fall asleep and then you just forget the last 24 hours. It's a thing. But the way I see retcon in media is if it's completely changing anything, or rather changing established things. See, the thing about Doctor Who and Once Upon a Time in that context, it's just stuff we didn't know about, and even the main characters didn't know about because they had their minds wiped. Now, I know you never played the Knights of the Old Republic games, Star Wars. Did you?
No, I haven't.
Taco's really going to like this reference. It's basically like, well, spoilers for a 20-year-old game. About halfway through the game, uh, there's a sequence where you find out that your main character was the bad guy all along, and he just had his mind wiped. That's how I see this storyline in Once Upon a Time and Doctor Who. It's just if these events happened and they don't necessarily contradict everything that came out after it chronologically, it is not a retcon, in my opinion. It's just stuff we didn't know about.
Okay, but I would argue with that because if I remember correctly, it was established during in season 4 that during the first cruise, the ice queen had a ice cream shop always in the town, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a retcon because we never seen that before.
Well, we don't see every shop and room and house in Storybrooke, Ben.
Okay, no, that's fair. That's
I
fair.
mean, again, that's why I said it's not a retcon because it's stuff that we never saw and never heard about.
Okay, yeah, no, you're right.
You know what? You know what I would consider retcon is in the pilot episode of the show. Snow White casually mentions that Regina poisoned an apple for her, gave her a poisoned apple because she thought she was prettier than her. And later in that same season, we find out that's not really the case, and that Snow White knew exactly why Regina hates her so much and why she gave her the poison apple. We find that out later in the last few episodes of the season. That I consider a retcon because it directly contradicts stuff that happened in previous episodes. So that's why I consider it a retcon. And that's why I don't think the Ice Queen is a retcon in this context.
Okay, now, I want to know your thoughts on Doc Emma in season 5.
It see like I said, I did not like the second half of season 4. So when they introduced the Dark Swan, which is what she's actually named, which is uh, funny to me, but when they introduced the idea of the Dark Swan, I think it had a lot of potential.
Yeah.
But it's something that needed to be handled very delicately because in the first episode of that season, they're like, oh, I mean, her parents are there with her, guarding her, looking after her. She's got her son, she's got Regina, she's got all this, so she's not gonna go full dark. It's like, okay, that's a bit disappointing. But then you find out the reveal that she cast another curse and then she fully embraced the Dark Swan persona, which I like that. But like I said, it had to be handled very, very delicately because remember, she's still the protagonist of the show.
Right,
She's still
right.
the main, or at least for the first 6 seasons. That is, she's still the protagonist, and she's now the bad guy. So there had to be a very delicate balance there. I will admit, I don't think that ended up being quite as good as I thought it would be, but the manipulations and the schemings that she does is very reminiscent of what Rumpelstiltskin sometimes does on the show, where she's always thinking several steps ahead. I didn't like how it all ended up with Hook also being a slightly dark one, and as soon as when he finds that out, it's a complete heel turn for him. Like,
It had that happened way too quickly. And yeah, I remember watching it in. Yeah, you're right. It didn't live up to its potential because at the end of that story arc, you realize, was she ever really dark? Like,
no,
she
she
made
had a plan. And she pretended to be dark. That's the
it.
thing.
I,
And also, like the entire season, Hook was mainly focused around trying to bring Emma back to the light side. He was always focused on being the good guy that Emma wanted him to be originally. And when he finds out that he's actually also part Dark One, he just goes completely 180 and goes completely to the dark side.
okay. There's something else I want to get off my chest about that story arc. The 95% of that story arc, Walker is trying to be a hero, right?
Who?
Walker Houston.
Yeah.
They keep saying he needs to be a hero. They keep building him up. Look, that 5 minutes of that finale part of the story arc, and like, no, kidding, he's a villain again. Everything he does doesn't matter. He's not going to get, right? Do you remember that?
I don't remember it in that season. I think it was the previous one with the author, wasn't it?
No, it was one. Remember, Emma goes to his shop, and and you know how he had a tiger back with all the hot ones inside of it or something?
I don't know. I need to rewatch because I really don't remember a lot of the stuff you're saying now.
Oh, okay. I'll send you the clip, but
I mean, I remember Rumpel mostly being in a coma for the majority of that season, wasn't he?
no, it was Emma was trying to make him a hero. She was trying to. It was the it was the Academy season, if you
The
remember.
the wait, the Camelot season?
Yeah.
I do not remember a lot of that. Weird.
Okay. But okay, we can talk about that Wish is perfect. I don't know about you, but my favorite season or story arc was on Peter Pan stuff.
Me too. Yes. Peter Pan is, in my opinion, the I love Rumpelstiltskin. Don't get me wrong. He's my favorite character in the show. I think Peter Pan was the best villain of the show,
Agreed.
which is
And
ironic because considering the connection between these two characters. I don't
right,
want to spoil it if people haven't seen the show yet.
it's been a while. I think we
It's been a
can.
while, but basically, how I always present it to people without spoiling it is basically he did a Vader moment. It was a it was a Vader
Yes,
moment.
a very Vader reminiscent. Let me ask you, going into really that last bit, did you see that coming? Did you see the reveal coming?
Absolutely not. I
No.
thought they were friends. I thought I mean I watched it then with my mom. She thought that Peter Pan was his son the
Okay.
entire time. But the reveal when it happens, not only does it take you completely off guard and you're not expecting it, once it comes up, you're like, "Oh, this makes perfect sense. Perfect sense."
And what Wood did to defeat Peter Pan
Oof.
is probably the best 5 minutes of that show in the last act. When you
It's
know what I'm talking about.
it solidifies him as the best character on the show.
Absolutely. And yeah, it's sad because you see what kind of life Russell had before he became the top one. And with all the flashbacks leading up to him becoming the top one, you realize why he did what he did. And the moment he lost his son, he regrets it, which makes him go on this path to make this doctor to begin with, right?
The long game.
The long game, exactly. What did you think
Which
about?
then brings back, which it goes back to the episode, several episodes later with the seer
Right.
that he's. I didn't like the idea of him literally gaining the ability to see the future because I feel like it took away from his cunningness and his and the idea that he knows what people will do. I think it kind of takes away from his character now that he literally has cheat codes essentially into what's going to happen anyway. But I love that using the idea that using his ability to see the future, he now knows exactly, or rather, for the most part, what he needs to do there to get what he wants. And when you actually put it in the context of everything else that happened in the flashback, like him, he actually deliberately got himself captured and thrown in prison specifically because he was playing the long game. And even after that season, when he comes back in the later half of season 3, he still always thinks ahead. And again, it goes back into the idea that he can see the future now, or a version of the future. but he's still one of the smartest characters in ever written in TV history.
Now, there is a great episode in season 2 where Emma, Rumpel, and Henry go to New York to find Rumpel's son. And they go to, they found the son's apartment. Nobody's there. They sneak in. The, you realize the son is Henry's dad. What did you think about that reveal?
I mean, this show is littered with great reveals, and it makes, again, it hits you by surprise, and it totally makes sense because season 2 start. Remember, the first scene in season 2 opens with a pigeon sending a message to Henry's dad, and you're like, well, who's this guy?
Right.
Where did this guy came from? What does he have to do? And he's never seen again until later when you find out that him and Emma were once together, and he's basically Henry's dad. And by that point, you forget who that character is because it's been that so long. And then several episodes later, not only do they find him again, but also he's, Rumpel's son, which essentially makes Rumpel Henry's grandfather. And good God, that poor kid, the the family tree that this guy has.
I think it was in that same New York episode when what's her name? Mary Margaret to David says, oh, David and Mary Margaret, I forget which one. One of them says, well, Thanksgiving is going to be an interesting time of year.
No. He says, well, it's a good thing we don't have Thanksgiving in our world.
Okay. Before we go too much further, I want to ask, what are your thoughts on David and Mary Margaret and David and Snow White as characters?
Charming in Snow White. Sorry, I think they're the second best love story in the show. Obviously, the first one goes to Rumpel and Belle. Then Snow White and Charming, because obviously it's Snow White and Prince Charming. Come on, but the third best is Emma and Hook.
Yeah, Emma and Hook, that's an interesting one because, yeah, it's a great one. Maybe I would personally put it ahead of Snow White and Charming, but Emma and Hook were so great. And I believe, and I want to know your opinion, I don't think that was the original plan. I think Emma was supposed to hang Hook up, no pun intended, hook up with Henry's dad originally. I think they were going to be a couple in season 2.
I don't think that was the plan, but I also don't think that Emma and Hook was the plan also. But you know what? Now that I think about it, yeah, I think I would put Emma and Hook above Snow White and Charming because, yeah, their love story was the major focus of season 1 and 2, and a little tiny bit in season 6, I think. But for the most part, their love story was already pretty set in stone, while Emma and Hook were the will they, won't they couple for most of the show.
For me, they were fascinating and interesting and entertaining. I loved it whenever modern technology frustrated Hook.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, one of my favorite lines is in the season 3 finale when they go back in time and they're trying to figure out a way home, and Emma's like, who do I look like, Marty McFly? And that
Marty McWho?
that totally And then in that same episode, I think they had Emma give herself the nickname Princess Leia.
Yeah, I think she was like, well, this is Prince Charles, the the British prince, and I'm Princess Leia. And you can tell the showrunners are Star Wars fans, right? You can
Yeah.
tell. Now, it slightly reminds me of. I know you never watched the Sarah Jane Adventures, but long story short, there's an episode when Sarah Jane and her son Luke travel back in time and meet Sarah Jane's parents. And
Okay.
obviously, she can't say that she's Sarah Jane because that's their daughter. So her and her son are like, I'm Victoria Beckham. And then her son is like, and I'm David Beckham.
Oh God.
So it reminds me of that a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, there's some great Star Wars references in Once Upon a Time.
The
If
the
you,
the Wookiee prisoner gag
right, and I'm
when
trying.
adult Henry meets Jack the Giant Slayer, they basically do the Han Solo Lando moment, right? From Bespin, season
Yeah,
7.
right. What did you think of that season 7?
I think it was unnecessary, but I'm happy we got it because it wrapped up so many dangling story threads, wrapped it all in a nice tight bow, and it gave every single character of the show the ending that I think they deserve. But again, I think season 6 ended beautifully and perfectly, that to the point where you didn't even need season 7. But, and also, again, speaking of retcon, they introduced the idea that Tiger Lily was the one that sent Henry's daughter to the real world. Which, okay, they just used a character they literally just now introduced into the show, which apparently was around for a very long time. We never heard about her. But then after that, she's never been seen again until like late in season 7, when it was like she was literally there just for that 5 minute scene of just she's this is Tiger Lily, she's gonna show you the way. It was like, again, like I said, completely unnecessary, but I'm glad we got it at the end. And
I
I just love. Speaking of Star Wars, the victory celebration at the end of Return of the Jedi, where we see all the planets, they basically did that with all the realms, where we see Agrabah and um, Neverland, Wonderland, all these lands. They did that in season 6, and then they basically did it all over again in season 7, where everything is in Storybrooke now.
I don't know if I ever show you, but I made a YouTube video side by side with Return of the Jedi and then season 6 finale.
I love this.
Remind me later, I'll show it to you. Because you're right, it's yeah, it's the same scene basically.
Yeah. Like I said, they are huge Star Wars fans. We just talked about the Peter Pan Vader moment.
I forget, where's that theory? That was in season 6, right?
Yes, season 6. Late season 6.
I like that they added here because they were tying up a story all the way set up in season 3, I believe, when they needed a Black Fairy wand to do something.
Hmm. Yeah, I think so. Like I said, look, I think it's fair to say we both need a rewatch of the
Yeah.
show now. But going on a different path, what do you think about Once Upon a Time in Wonderland, though?
I like the first episode. There was all the rest. How about you?
You never saw the rest?
No.
Oh, well, I really, really liked the show. And
Okay.
it kind of frustrated me that they never um, They never did anything else with it. Obviously, they brought the Knave of Hearts character into the show, and obviously they brought Jafar properly into the main Once Upon a Time continuity with a different actor for some reason. But I mean, it's an Israeli actor, so what do I care? But I would have loved to have seen more of this, like Once Upon a Time in Neverland, Once Upon a Time in Agrabah. Speaking of Jafar, Once Upon a Time in this, Once Upon a Time in Arendelle. I mean, hell, I can't remember the name of Moana's island, but let's have Once Upon a Time there. I mean, all we basically got from Moana, and again, at that point, it was season 7. It was the tail end of the show. The show was ending. There was no time to bring Moana stuff into the show. So all they're able to do is just bring Maui's hook. But let's see a Once Upon a Time there. I mean, last week I watched Encanto. I'd love to see a Once Upon a Time in there. Like, how does that tie into the? I guess maybe at this point it would have to be a relaunch or reboot of the show. But yeah, I'd love to see Once Upon a Time in all these other places. And obviously, Once Upon a Time in the Pride Lands. I mean, I'm a little shocked they didn't find some excuse to throw them there.
That was my next topic that I was going to bring up. Okay, 50. I know you. You're probably the biggest Lion King fan I know. If you were to bring Lion King into Once Upon a Time, how would you do it and who would you cast as the characters?
I mean, it's kind of obvious who Mufasa's gonna be, right?
If you can,
Yeah, but here's the problem you run into that, though. Do you actually introduce the idea that actual lions exist, talking lions exist? Or is it just essentially humans taking on the same roles that the animals had in the movie? It's a very fine line.
I always thought of it whenever I had this discussion. I always thought in the Enchanted Forest reality, it's animals. But when they're here, it's humans taking on the personality.
That's actually a very good way to go about this because remember, Jiminy Cricket
Exactly.
became human. But obviously, that's a different that's a different thing because he was human before, and then the blue fairy made him into a cricket. So maybe there's some magic that would bring the animals from the Pride Lands into Storybrooke, the live action. But the main problem with that is if you introduce a Lion King type story into that universe, it would have to be completely CGI if you're going with actual talking animals, like you had with Red Riding Hood as the werewolf, or Maleficent as the dragon, or the Scarecrow from the Wizard of Oz area. The Scarecrow was entirely CGI. And also, speaking of Once Upon a Time in Wonderland, the White Rabbit was entirely CGI, voiced by John Lithgow. His wife was voiced by Whoopi Goldberg, by the way, who also is the voice of Shanzi in The Lion King. Just wanted to point that out. But yeah, the caterpillar, voiced by what's his face, Iggy Pop.
Oh,
So yeah,
wow.
a lot of CGI went into Once Upon a Time in Wonderland. If they would ever do a Once Upon a Time in the Pride Lands, they would have to go full CGI or do something similar to the Lion King movie, the 2019 version, or just have CGI animals in a live action jungle environment. Because much as I love the show, I gotta admit the green screen in the show was not the best.
Yeah,
Really not the best.
no, you're right about that. But okay.
It's so painfully obvious that it's green screen. And remember, this was done during the time the show was being made during the time of Game of Thrones, of the Matt Smith era of Doctor Who, where green screen technology was like they were reaching movie level potential. And obviously today, if they were to remake the show today or bring the show back, you gotta imagine they would use the volume
Yeah,
from
yeah.
the Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett. They would use that, but back then, it's weird that you compare green screen from this show to other shows from that era, and yeah, and especially since it's Disney, like it's not like they're short on money, especially during that time with uh, Tangled and Wreck-It Ralph and Frozen uh, breaking the box, and the Avengers movies obviously breaking the box office.
There are two characters I want to bring up real quick. The Wicked Witch, what did you think of her? And the character that I felt was the more underused character that I found fascinating, the Mad Hatter.
Hmm. Now, because you brought them up in a specific order, let's talk about the Wicked Witch first. This goes back into what I was saying earlier, the idea of retcon versus stuff you didn't know about prior. I think this falls into the stuff you didn't know about prior, and I loved it. I loved that essentially since the end of season two, Regina's a good guy now. So okay, how are you going to fill that void? Obviously they brought Peter Pan, which I think is the best villain of the show, but then they brought in Zelina, the Wicked Witch, and she just I don't want to say she topped Regina as a villain, because first season and a little bit of the second season, I mean, I ran out of curse words to yell at the screen because of all the horrible stuff Regina did. But Zelina then came in and took the whole villainous evil witch into a completely different direction, and still she made a one hell of an impact with it. I didn't like, again, season 4 had a lot of problems. I didn't like the idea that she was basically Marion the whole time, and she was pregnant with Robin Hood's baby, essentially. And the whole character of Marion, I did not like at all. But then obviously then you realize that she was actually Rosalina the whole time, and that's why you didn't like her so much. But be that as it may, Zelina, I think, one of the better villains in a show famous for having great villains. And she has a great redemption story, and I love her relationship with Hades.
Yep.
I do think she did a lot of stupid stuff with the Hades stuff. Like the whole world is telling her that the literal god of the underworld in Greek mythology is a bad guy, and she refuses to see him as a bad guy. And she does a lot of stuff before that in the flashbacks. What she did to the Tin Man, I think, was a bit despicable, but overall, great character, and I really like her song in the musical episode. Now, as far as the Mad Hatter, I agree. One of the most underutilized characters in the show, and for obvious reasons, obviously Sebastian Stan kind of was busy a little bit after the first and second season. But
it's like, okay, you can he left, but how can you be see where he went to? Like, can it really be that mad that he left? See where he went?
yeah, I mean, I love Sebastian Stan as the Winter Soldier. Falcon and the Winter Soldier is my favorite of the Marvel Disney Plus shows so far.
Really? Wow.
But I mean, again, story for another show. But um, I would have loved to have seen more of that character, and especially the potential, the limitless potential that you had with that character, especially with the hat that can basically jump between realms. And like we never really fully got to see the full extent. We only scratched the surface of what that hat can do, because we see multiple doors there. Like we see the Enchanted Forest and Wonderland. What else can be found behind that hat? Now it's another part of I think missed opportunity that they did with The Nightmare Before Christmas, where you basically see like 4 or 5 different doors, and you only get to see what's behind 2 of them. What does the St. Patrick's Day door looks like? What does the Thanksgiving door looks like? Why the hell wasn't there a Hanukkah door or a Passover door there? Like, what the hell? Why are you anti-Jewish? Like, come on. But still, there's so much potential left on the table there that they didn't explore in both Nightmare Before Christmas and with the Mad Hatter character. And it would have been great to see him pop up in Once Upon a Time in Wonderland. Which, spoiler alert, since you didn't watch it, he doesn't. So, but he's meant.
I didn't. I don't think there were any crossover happening, and to be honest, maybe that was part of the
Once Upon a
reason.
Time in Wonderland.
Yeah, was there any crossovers? Did anybody?
Dude, Robin Hood shows up on the show, and
Wait,
Cora. And there's again spoilers. There's an episode where they literally go into Storybrooke in the show. Alice and Cyrus literally go to Storybrooke, modern day Storybrooke.
but was it the same Robin Hood?
Yes, it was the same Robin Hood.
Oh, okay. Huh.
Like again, remember, the one of the main characters from the show was the Knave of Hearts, who was also Will Scarlet, one of Robin Hood's merry men.
Okay.
It makes sense Robin Hood was there, and it's literally Wonderland, so of course the Queen of Hearts is going to show up, right?
But
There was a ton of crossover between those two shows. And obviously then later on they brought Jafar. So the ending of that show is a full setup to why Jafar was a genie in a bottle in Storybrooke in season 6. Like, it's not just because of the movie, it's because of what happened in Once Upon a Time in Wonderland.
might have to go back and
Doesn't explain why he's a completely different actor, but that's beside the point.
yeah, I might have to go back and watch that. Yeah,
And
okay.
I would highly recommend watching it, especially because it basically, without spoiling too much, you get the origin story of Jafar's snake staff.
Oh,
Again, no spoilers, but it shows you the origin story of that staff.
I gotta watch it then. It was only on one season, right?
Yeah, which,
Oh,
again, part of the reason why I'm sad that they never did more with it.
yeah. Yeah, they could have had something special, but what did you think of Henry as a character?
I found him to be very annoying in the first season. I started to warm up to him late in the later seasons, especially during the Peter Pan season.
Yeah.
A little bit more during when he was the author and during the Camelot stuff.
Okay.
And while I don't think he was as good of a protagonist as his mom was in season 7, he was a decent protagonist in season 7.
This is my feelings about season 7, if I may. Season 6 was a great wrap up to Emma's story. Season 7 was a great wrap up to everyone's story.
Mm.
And I would almost argue Sheila was the protagonist in season 7, not Henry.
Mm.
It started with Henry, but I tell you, halfway through season 7, it felt like the writers were like, okay, none of these new characters are working, so we're going to make hard choice and focus everything on Regina and everyone from previous stuff.
It goes back to what I said earlier, that I think season 7 was unnecessary, but I'm glad we got it. Which kind of brings up the question of who's really the protagonist of the show. Is it Emma, Henry, Regina, Rumpelstiltskin? Like, who is it? It's all of these guys together. I did say my biggest criticism for season 7, Dr. Facilier kind of goes out like a bitch in that movie, in that show, in that season.
I mean, honest, all all the new characters go out kind of like a bit for that season.
Yeah,
There was one episode where they got rid of like everybody knew it within 15 minutes of that episode.
yeah. They Game of Thrones us in that season.
It, wa- I'm telling you, and be like, okay, we tried introducing these new characters. Nobody liked them. And with a simple snap, everything was back up and she had one for as my
Yeah, and
protector.
Zelina.
Angelina. And I guess maybe Henry.
and
Yeah,
uh, and other
and
hook,
who is a great character, by the way. I love what they did to keep her.
which
But
again it goes back to what we said earlier. Season was unnecessary, but it wraps up so much. So all these dangling plot threads that were just left on the table. I love it.
to tell you the truth, it was unnecessary, and I think they got lucky. Yeah, it could have
Yeah,
ended, and
yeah,
it could have ended really, really badly.
but it didn't, which is why I like it. And
Right.
I would have loved to have seen, because at the at the one of, at the very end we find out that I can't remember what the name of Maleficent's daughter was,
Oh,
but
man.
it basically,
I remember this.
yeah, but you find out that her father was Zorro. I would have
Why,
loved to have seen that.
why not? Why not make Silver a dragon? Why not?
Yeah, but again, why didn't we get to see that? I would have loved to have seen that in the show.
You know what I would have loved? I would have loved spin-off after season 7 with Robin and Alex going on adventures.
Ooh, maybe they could still do that. I mean, it's been a while, but I'm pretty sure uh, the actresses are down for it.
I mean, to me, they were the two best new characters. And I love their chemistry together. I don't know about
Yeah,
you.
I I mean, there's so much spin-off potential just from that last season alone. They could have just done also um, Red Riding Hood and what's her face, Dorothy.
Oh, yes. I
Yeah, they could have
forgot.
done something with that. Which again, I can't remember if it was season 7 or season 6. Maybe season 6, but it basically it touches on the fact that Red Riding Hood just disappears one day, and you have no idea what happened to her. But then, like, oh right, she was in Oz this whole time.
Yeah.
Okay, sure, fine, as long as we get to see her again. I will say
Yeah.
this: a character that I didn't think her story wrapped up the way I wanted it to was Mulan.
Well, I really think about bringing her up.
Oh, really? Great minds think alike. It's weird.
In season 2, she's one of the trio that I call the three pointless characters. Because you have Mulan, you have Christopher Philip, and you have Aurora. And what did they add to the story? Tell me.
We got to see Mulan. That was fun.
I see Mulan. And she did a great job as Mulan, but to me, they didn't add anything, did they? I mean, am I remembering wrong?
I mean, I off the top of my head, I don't remember any significant contributions other than just being a guide to and her mother in this new realm that they never got to see. But
Right.
other than that, I don't know. I would have loved to have seen more of Mulan. Mulan, I think, was an underutilized character in the show.
He showed up in the Gifted as Blink, if you remember.
Yes, and it also makes. Thank you for reminding me. It also makes me mad how they ended that show. Did you watch it though?
I love that. And one of
I
my
loved
favorite.
it. I
It,
loved The Gifted, but it ends on like Blink actually becoming the actual Blink from the comics, which is weird because she died in that show. but then she comes back as actual Blink, and then that's how they end the show. And it's clearly they were setting up for a season two, which never happened, which is annoying. But oh yeah, season three. Yeah, clearly they were setting up for another season. Same thing, and it happened at the same time that Krypton second season ended. Again, ending on the mess on a mother of all cliffhangers when they know they're not getting a season three, which is
Oh,
just ugh.
I'll be honest about the gifted. I heard that season 3 was going to be a retelling of Days of Future Past. And you know me, I love time travel. But being on a network television channel, I don't see it doing that well. So to me, they ended in a good enough way where I could hear me happy with it. Would I have loved to see more? Yes. But at the same time, I'm okay with it, if that makes sense.
Okay. I didn't know that. I don't know if Days of Future Past would have worked as well in a TV show, but who knows? I mean, we never got to see it, so I guess we'll never know. But that cliffhanger, man, it's like the ending of Back to the Future, where you have to come with something telling me done about your kids, and and imagine if we never got to see how that paid out.
Well, funny. It's so funny you bring up that as an example. Because after the first Back to the Future ended, guess what? They were never going to make a Back to the Future Part 2 or 3. Never,
Okay, but we did get, and I'm happy we did.
we did get it only because it did so well and it's an all-time classic. Hey, it's my number one favorite movie.
I mean, hey, money talks.
Money,
Money influences movies.
it's funny because if you see the end of part one of Back to the Future and you see the beginning of part two, they reshot the scene.
Yes,
And
because
Marty looks
they had to recast the actress.
the end of it right. And yes, but yeah, that was the original ending of Back to the Future. And they were never supposed to do a part two. But they did, and they thought,
Yeah,
what,
but I guess
ooh, tell me
what did
about
I
that.
do wrong?
Tell me about that.
But I guess because it's a movie and because it did so much money, I guess it was easier to go with a follow up to that movie than a follow up to season two of The Gifted.
Right.
And I told you this off camera. You know that new Israeli show that I've been watching now for a while
Yeah.
with the Devil Kid. It literally ends like the ending of Back to the Future. I mean, the guy literally dresses up like Marty McFly from Back to the Future Part Two, and he walks in and like, "You gotta come back with me. Back where? Back to the future." So this is another show I wish we get a second season of, because I really like the first season, even though I know you didn't watch it, but or you can't watch it, I should say. But I really love the first season, and because of the way it ended, I wish it wouldn't have end. It's not gonna end up like The Gifted. I mean, it's like, I mean, I don't necessarily like the way that shows do that nowadays, where they end on a massive cliffhanger, not even knowing if they're getting a follow up season. It's like,
Yeah.
imagine if season three of Once Upon a Time ends. We go to bring it back to the topic of the show. Uh, Imagine if season three ends, we see Elsa showing up from the urn, and that never gets brought up, and then never we get a second and a fourth season out of that.
I will one with you better. Imagine if it ends halfway through season 3 with Emma and him going to, they went to Boston or New York? I always forget. They went to New York, I believe, right? Yeah.
I don't remember. I
Okay,
don't.
you remember in Edwin, Emma and Henry driving off, and everyone else going back to the enchanted forest. Emma and Henry have no memories of everyone. Imagine if it ended there.
But then at the very end of the episode, Hook shows up. He's like, "You gotta come back. It's your pet." It's basically the opposite of Back to the Future. It's like your parents. Something's gonna be done about your parents.
Eh, that final bit is so well done, and I love that. And I love when Emma regains her memories in the following episode.
Yeah, because you think, is it gonna take a while? Is it gonna take an episode or two? Nope. He basically here, drink this. Hook. Well, so yeah.
And then,
And the
and
reveal that the guy she's been dating was actually a flying monkey the whole time. And later in the season, it turns out he was actually the Wizard of Oz this entire time. It's like, again, this show has so many great reveals, like stacking up on top of each other. I mean, we didn't even mention season. I mean, the season 6, I think, but the reveal, or rather, the end of season 5, when the reveal of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Because up until this point, you mostly only see fairy tale characters and Frankenstein, because why the hell not? But then you actually get Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and Mr. Hyde is played by Sam freaking Witwer. And this was around the time, I think, when Sam Witwer was in the Schmodown,
yeah,
uh, and he was in Supergirl, and he was Darth Maul again. So, like, Sam Witwer, that was a great time to be a Sam Witwer fan.
he was great, and yeah. I, because season 5 finale was also when Emma, when Evil Queen and Regina split up, right?
Yeah. And it's like, oh shit, the evil queen's back. Because I mentioned this, I watched this with my mom. My mom, Regina's her favorite character.
Okay.
But and fun fact, a couple of years ago, I was able to get Neil McDonough, who played Damien Dark in Arrowverse, to give her to sing her happy birthday to her.
Oh, that's awesome.
I tried to get Lana Parrilla, who played Regina, but she was unavailable at the time. But if she was, I would have easily got Regina to sing "Happy Birthday" to my mom. But that's beside the point. Regina's her favorite character. She did not like Regina being a good character, going to the light side. So when they brought back the actual evil queen, she was she was the happiest woman on earth. And she's still not a big fan of the fact that Regina became the good queen at the end, but still, Regina, even as a good character, she's still her favorite.
Right, yeah. Eh,
Again, talking about season 5 finale, when they introduced this idea that all these other literary characters can show up now, like we got the Count of Monte Cristo, I believe, in the follow-up season. Again, a lot of great potential that I don't really think it really lived up. And with the reveal that with Henry and his girlfriend from Camelot, where they have all these books, Violet, I think was her name, all these
yeah.
other books that are basically like the big Once Upon a Time book. It's like, how many characters are we going to bring into this universe? But again, they didn't really do much with it, in my opinion. And they left so much on the table there.
Well, I think part of the problem is they went into season 6 thinking it was the final season.
Yeah, true. I
They
guess that's part of it. But
wanted to wrap up what they can, and for me, what they did in season 6 was great. I like season 7, but season 6 was the true series, the true final season for me.
yeah,
But I mean, we got pretty good season 7 after.
yeah, same.
Okay,
And
actually,
I think because I really wasn't a fan of what they did with Rapunzel in season 3, I think, where she basically only shows up for one episode, and
Right,
it's
right,
when
right, right.
David has to climb the big tower. I was really not a fan of what they did with Rapunzel in that episode. I loved what they did with Rapunzel in season 7.
Yeah,
She was basically the spoiler alert. She was basically the evil stepmother from Cinderella.
right,
Which,
right.
by the way, in the original Brothers Grimm version of Rapunzel, Rapunzel and her love interest in the book, they have two children, which I believe both of them are daughters. So yeah, they have daughters. So it kind of matches up well with Rapunzel in season 7 having two daughters.
Okay. As we not to wind up here, there's one character I want to talk about, the reveal of one character. It was in the middle of season 6. Regina and Emma are trapped in the wish realm. And they come across old, fat, drunk Hook. How great was that character?
Yeah, I loved that character, which initially I was upset that they brought him back in season 7. But what they did with him, I liked. Like it
Right.
could have been so many bad directions, but I loved the way they ended his character in season 7, and I loved his relationship with Alice in season 7. And something that bothers me a little bit is the final moments between other Hook and Rumpelstiltskin, where still Rumpel says that despite their differences and despite everything that they've been through, he was the closest thing he had to a friend. Which I would have much preferred he would say it to the original Hook. That's the only problem I have with that scene. But
Yeah.
the fact that Rumpelstiltskin was big enough of a character to admit that to himself and to a version of Hook, I loved that part.
I'd like to think he was talking about all hooks at that time because,
Every single Hook variant
right.
in the Once
But,
Upon a Time multiverse.
but I have to say that scene also gets me. And knowing Wampo still did sacrifice his own life to save Hook, any Hook, and
Any
then,
Hook. Yeah.
and then,
With a hook! With Maui's hook!
it,
Here's Maui's.
and then beautiful thing that the best character of the show did. And
And he also gets his happy ending. He gets to be with Belle again.
yeah, I'm not going to lie, one thing that would have made that scene even more perfect for me, Leo should have made that cameo.
Who?
Henry's dad, one person.
Oh. Oh. Yeah. I think that
That
would have
was
been.
that
I, I
was
I thought you were gonna say Gideon.
both of them, both of them.
Yeah. But yeah, it kind of sucks that Neil wasn't in the show anymore at a certain point. Aside from Baby Neil, but I mean that doesn't count.
No. All right, well, thank you, 50. We went over an hour. Thank you so much for coming on. Tell everyone where they can find you.
Well, you can find me on my own YouTube channel, 50 Shades of Geek. You can also find me occasionally on Twitch at 50 Shades of Geek without the F for some reason. I'm also I can be found alongside Ben on the Northern Entertainment Group YouTube channel. We do a show called Northern Countdown with Soda. Uh, I also have my own show on that channel called The Greatest Show in the Galaxy, where I talk about my personal favorite show, personal favorite franchise of all time, Doctor Who. And you said uh, you said this episode was going to be on the 14th,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
So by the time you're watching this, I was on the last episode on that channel for Let's Talk About Star Wars in the Star Wars Alien or Not game. I was co-hosting alongside Marie Wilson, and I also wrote some of the questions. And if you know me, and if you've seen some of the questions I wrote last time, expect the unexpected. But yeah, that was about a week ago from the point of view of you watching this. So go back and watch it and have a good time. But that's me.
Well, thanks for everyone. Thanks for joining us. You can find me at my Twitter, Ben_Rainer. Like 50 said, I'm also on the Northern Entertainment Group on Northern Countdown with him and Shoulder, and I'm also on Rewind That Tape. We're doing, I think we just wrapped up Batman series. You can also find me on this channel, on my channel, right here on Deep Dive every Monday, on Jedi Academy every Wednesday, and Ben's Picks every Friday, with a couple of live streams every week. And yeah, that's where you can find me. Until next time, this is Ben. This has been Deep Dive. Thanks for coming.
And may you live happily ever after.
All magic comes with a price, dearie.
Be careful what you wish for, dearie.